Hey guys, so I realize that a lot of you who follow my YouTube probably don't read my blog, and my blog tends to be the place where I write and share the most often. I tend to be someone who's better at writing than talking, and so a blog is a place where it's easy for me to write and share my pictures all in one place. But I thought for those of you who are just here on my YouTube, I would go ahead and start sharing little about me's from time to time on this channel. So for today's About Me, I'm going to share my podcast loves. So I'm going to share 3 with you. The first podcast that I'm sharing today is Mosaic Podcast. In addition to attending my own local church, I also like to listen to the Mosaic Podcast on my phone when I'm driving. Mosaic is a church out in LA, and I really love how their pastor, Erwin McManus, how his brain works, how he thinks about things. And I love his honesty and his vulnerability. I think that those are 2 things that the church in general has a tendency to really lack. That and not always being at the best at talking about and addressing hard stuff. And I feel like over at Mosaic, Erwin does a really good job of that. So I thoroughly look forward to his podcasts when they come out, usually about once a week. My second podcast is actually, I believe, the reason I started listening to podcasts. I have a huge love for John and Hank Green. I really enjoy the way both Hank and John think. Hank is very analytical and approaches the world from a scientist's point of view. It would be the easy way to look at that. And John tends to be more of the artist, and he's also, he talks about some of his mental health issues and things like that. And so combining those 2 things together is kind of how my brain works. So I enjoy listening to them because it's like 2 parts of my brain as people interacting with each other. My third podcast, and the last one I'm sharing with you today, I've only recently started listening to. And you may have just noticed from the last podcast I talked about that I have a love for psychology, mental health, and things like that. And I've always had that. I took a lot of psychology classes when I was in college just because I find the way people think and process things and how they handle different situations and all of that good stuff. I find it really interesting, and I think that for me personally, to be a good human is to care about other people and try and understand their worlds from their perspective. And so this third podcast is called the Mental Illness Happy Hour, and what they do on there is they have different people come on and they ask them questions, and you kind of get their life story about, whatever their specific struggle is, whether it's like alcohol or drug addiction, maybe it's a traumatic childhood, maybe they deal with narcolepsy. There are tons of different issues that they discuss, and the whole point is to talk about topics that for a long time in our society have been really taboo and make them feel less terrifying by being open and honest about it. And as someone who's really passionate about mental health and about telling people's stories and being compassionate to people's realities, it's been a very eye-opening and thought-provoking podcast to listen to. It can talk about really heavy things. So if you don't like dark and heavy stuff that is certain people's realities, you probably won't like this podcast. So those are my 3 loves for you this week on my 3 favorite podcasts. If you have a favorite podcast, I would love to hear about it. Please leave it in the comments below, and I will try and give them all a listen. Thanks, guys. Bye.